The spanner slid from his palm the second he caught it. Two little voices shouting down the muddy lane. "Sir, please. Mommy isn't waking up." Six-year-old Ethan Brooks halted beside his beat-up Dodge, oil trickling from his fingers, heart racing like a storm drum. He turned, and there they stood. Two small girls in matching nightclothes, barefoot, their faces marked with tears. One held a cuddly bunny. The other could barely breathe between sobs. That night, a faulty truck, a single dad, and two scared children met in a way that would transform all their lives forever. Before we continue, share a comment with where you're watching from, and please tap subscribe for more stories like this. Let's go. Ethan rushed toward the girls, rubbing his hands on his jeans. Hey, it's okay, he said, kneeling low. Where's your mom? The older one, maybe 7, pointed toward a little trailer at the edge of the lot. She won't wake up. We tried shaking her. Every instinct in Ethan's heart awakened fully. He'd seen that look before. Panic, fear, the kind that made kids grow up too quickly. He grabbed his jacket and ran, boots crunching gravel as he entered the old trailer. Inside, the air smelled of damp and something sour. A woman lay slumped against the couch, pale as moonlight, lips slightly blue. Ethan dropped beside her and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. A faint pulse, faint but there. He turned to the twins standing in the doorway, shaking. "What's her name?" "Lily," the younger whispered. "Mama's Lily." Ethan nodded, checking her breathing. "All right, you two stay right here. Your mom's going to be okay, I promise." He took his phone, dialing 911 with trembling hands. "Yes, I've got an unresponsive woman breathing shallow pulse, weak trailer off Route 14 near the old junkyard." When he hung up, he looked at the twins again. "You girls hungry?" They blinked at him, confused. "We haven't eaten since yesterday." Ethan swallowed hard. His own pantry was almost bare, canned soup, stale bread, but he smiled anyway. "All right then, we'll fix that after the ambulance gets here." Minutes later, red and blue lights flashed across the dusty field. Paramedics rushed in. One of them, a woman about Ethan's age, gave him a look as she assessed Lily. "Good thing you found her when you did," she said. "She's gonna make it." Ethan exhaled in relief. "Thank God." When they loaded Lily onto the stretcher, the girl cried, clinging to her hands until Ethan knelt again. "She'll need you two to be brave right now." "Okay, I'll follow the ambulance." "You're not alone." The paramedic nodded toward Ethan. "You family?" He shook his head. "Just a neighbor." But that night, watching those little girls in the back of the ambulance clutching each other like they'd fall apart if they let go, something in Ethan shifted. He knew he couldn't just go back home and pretend it wasn't his problem, because kindness, he thought, wasn't about what you owed. It was about who you refused to leave behind. The hospital's gentle lights glowed softly above as Ethan leaned against the vending machine, a paper cup of coffee cooling in his hand. He'd driven behind the ambulance all the way to Fairview General, his old pickup coughing smoke the whole way. But he couldn't leave. Not after seeing those 2 little girls trembling in the back seat, whispering to their unconscious mom. Through the glass window, he watched them now, sitting side by side in the waiting area. The smaller one, Sophia, had her face buried in her sister's lap. The older one, Olivia, was trying to look brave the way kids do when they think someone needs to. Ethan walked over, crouching to their eye level. "You girls doing okay?" Olivia nodded, but her voice cracked. They said, "Mama's sleeping. She going to wake up soon?" Ethan forced a gentle smile, even though the nurse's earlier words echoed in his head. Possible overdose, severe dehydration, malnutrition. He cleared his throat softly. "Yeah, the doctors are taking care of her. She's tougher than she looks. I promise." Sophia's eyes, wide and green, glistened. "We don't got anywhere to go." Ethan paused. He'd been a single dad long enough to know what fear like that meant. He remembered nights when his son Liam asked if they'd still have a home next month. He remembered the sound of silence after his wife left, the kind that filled every corner of the trailer. He looked down at the girls. "Hey," he said softly, "I've got a spare room. My boy's at his aunt's for the weekend. You can stay with me tonight just until your mama wakes up. Deal?" Olivia hesitated, "But we don't want to be trouble." Ethan shook his head. "You won't be. I could use some company." That night he tucked them into the small couch bed in his living room. He made grilled cheese sandwiches from the last loaf of bread he had, cutting off the burnt edges so Sophia wouldn't notice. When they finally fell asleep, he stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching their little faces soften in the dim light. It hit him then how easy it was for people to fall through the cracks, how close he'd come himself. The next morning, Ethan dropped by the hospital before heading to work. The nurse, the same one from last night, approached him with tired eyes. "You the neighbor?" she asked. "Yeah, how's she doing?" "She's stable but weak. If she hadn't been found when she was," she stopped, shaking her head, "you might have saved her life." Ethan let out a quiet breath. "I just did what anyone would." The nurse gave a knowing half-smile. "You'd be surprised how few people stop these days." Later, back at this shop, Ethan tried to focus on the broken alternator in front of him, but his thoughts kept drifting to the girls' laughter when he made them pancakes that morning. To the way Sophia hugged him, like she hadn't been hugged in months. Around noon, the phone rang. He wiped his hands and picked up Brooks Auto Repair. "Mr. Brooks, this is Dr. Saunders from Fairview General. Lily Harper, the woman you brought in. She's awake. She's asking for you." Ethan froze for me. She said to thank the man with the old truck who wouldn't stop helping. By the time he reached the hospital again, Lily was sitting up in bed, pale but alert, her eyes soft brown and tired. Met his as he stepped into the room. "You're Ethan," she whispered. "The girls told me everything. You saved my life." He rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly awkward. "You did the hard part, staying alive." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't think anyone would care if I didn't." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're wrong about that." He pulled out a folded envelope and set it on the tray beside her. Inside was a handwritten note, the address of his place, his number, and a simple message. "You're not alone anymore." She stared at it, then at him. "Why are you doing this?" He looked her straight in the eyes. "Because someone once did the same for me. I was lost too once, and a stranger decided I was worth saving." Lily's lips trembled, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to," he said softly. "Just get better for them." When he left the hospital that night, the twins were waiting in the hallway, holding a crumpled drawing. Two stick-figure girls, a smiling mom, and a tall man with a wrench in his hand. Above it, in shaky letters, they'd written, "Thank you, Mr. Ethan." He smiled through theatre in his chest. Because sometimes the kindest thing a man can do isn't fixing engines. It's fixing hearts that forgot they were still beating. 3 weeks later, Ethan's old house felt different. Warmer, fuller, like the kind of home he'd thought he'd lost for good. The scent of pancakes filled the air as sunlight streamed through the cracked blinds. Sophia sat at the table coloring, her tiny feet swinging above the floor, while Olivia carefully poured syrup, tongue between her teeth in concentration. Lily stood by the stove, her left wrist still bandaged, but her eyes brighter now, Olive. She glanced at Ethan over her shoulder. "You sure you're okay with us still here? We've taken over your place." Ethan grinned, flipping a pancake with a practiced hand. "You're asking the guy who lives on coffee and gas station burritos. Trust me, you're saving me." She smiled faintly, though her voice softened. "You didn't have to do all this, Ethan. You barely knew us." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Sometimes strangers show up right when they're meant to. I think we both know that." Lily looked down at her hands, quiet for a moment. "I was not okay. After my husband passed, I tried to hold everything together for the girls. Bills, rent, work, it all just collapsed. I didn't even realize how close I was to losing them or myself." Ethan's chest tightened. He saw a reflection of his own story. Late nights fixing cars just to keep the lights on after his wife left. The crushing weight of trying to be both mother and father to his son. "You don't owe me an explanation," he said gently. "You just keep fighting. That's what matters." Her eyes glistened, but she nodded. "I'm trying." The sound of giggling broke through the quiet moment. Sophia had managed to smear syrup across her face, and Olivia was laughing so hard she nearly fell from her chair. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "All right, syrup monsters, finish up before we're late." "For what?" Lily asked. He grabbed his cap and pointed outside. "The truck needs a new axle, and I promised these two my secret pancake payment plan. They help me clean the tools and they get chocolate milkshakes later. Lily laughed, the sound light and free. That's bribery, Mr. Brooks, and smart parenting, Miss Harper, he teased. By mid-afternoon, the sound of wrenches clinking echoed through the small workshop. The girls sat on overturned buckets, humming while they scrubbed greasy rags. Ethan worked under the truck, humming to himself until he heard Lily's voice behind him. "Ethan, there's a car out front." He slid out from under the hood, wiping his hands. A sleek black sedan had pulled into the driveway, its windows tinted. Two people stepped out, a woman in a navy coat and a man holding a clipboard. "Are you Ethan Brooks?" the woman asked, flashing an ID badge. "We're from Child Protective Services." Ethan's heart skipped. He looked at Lily, whose face drained of color. "Is something wrong?" he asked carefully. The woman's tone was calm but firm. "We received a report about minors being in your care. We just need to confirm their mother's living situation and recovery status." Lily's hands trembled. "Wait, someone reported us. It's standard procedure when a parent is hospitalized. We just need to verify everything is stable." Ethan could feel the twins clutching his pant leg behind him, their eyes wide. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "They're just making sure everyone's safe." The social worker nodded politely and followed Lily inside. Ethan stayed outside with the girls, trying to keep his voice steady as he handed them a wrench. "Remember what I said? Sometimes life checks if you're still strong enough to hold on." When the agents finally left, Lily stepped out, tears in her eyes but smiling. They said, "I'm clear. No case, they just needed proof we're okay." Ethan exhaled a long breath of relief. "Guess they didn't see the syrup stains on my ceiling." She laughed through her tears, then suddenly hugged him. It caught him off guard, soft, trembling, grateful. "You didn't just save my life, Ethan. You gave my girls a home again." He hesitated, then rested his hand gently on her back. "No," he murmured. "You did that yourself. I just handed you the tools." 2 months later, Lily had started working part-time at the diner down the road. She insisted on paying rent. Ethan refused. They compromised. She cooked dinner and he fixed everything that rattled or leaked. Life had a rhythm again. Mornings filled with laughter, evenings with stories and the occasional broken appliance. One Saturday night, Ethan sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the twin chase fireflies. Lily joined him, wearing one of his old flannels over her shirt. "Do you ever miss the quiet?" she asked. He smirked. Not for a second. She turned toward him, her voice quieter now. "You ever think about what's next?" Ethan looked out at the girls and then back at her. "Used to think my life ended the day my wife left. Now I think it just got rerouted." She smiled softly. "Maybe mine did too." For a long moment neither of them spoke. The sound of crickets filled the air. Sophia laughed in the yard, holding up a glowing jar. Ethan glanced at Lily again, the porch light flickering across her face. "You know," he said, "I think you and I were meant to fix more than engines." Lily blinked, her eyes wet but warm. "Then I hope you don't mind if I stay and help." Ethan smiled. "Deal." And as the night deepened around them, 2 single souls and 2 small girls beneath the sky full of stars, it didn't feel like a rescue anymore. It felt like a beginning. Because sometimes kindness doesn't end when the ambulance leaves. Sometimes it's the spark that rebuilds a family from the wreckage.